All right. Well, everyone, welcome to the 20th Rental Roundtable. We've got Blake Manning on in Canada. Blake, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Excited for this episode. A lot to talk about. Since we've even talked last month, you made a pretty big acquisition, which we'll get to. But from my understanding, sort of reading more about All Choice Rentals, very fast growing. I think fastest growing rental company in North America in 2022, and maybe top three in the last few years. Is that right?
Yeah. By revenue growth for sure.
Yeah. So I'd love to, we'll talk about All Choice here in a second, but love just for the audience, tell us about how you first got into rental. I know you've been at All Choice for almost 10 years, but how did you first get into the equipment rental space?
For me, I've always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur from an early age. I started my first business when I was in grade 6. I started a candy store within our school and sold 5-cent candy bags to all the children in the school. So I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And an opportunity came about 10 years ago. I was working for a company called Wajax Equipment in Edmonton, Alberta, doing sales and rentals. So selling excavators, rock trucks, wheel loaders, forestry equipment. And then an opportunity came where one of my best friends, he got on with All Choice with the mandate to grow the business. And he reached out to me and asked if I would consider coming on to run kind of the sales and operations side of the business. So, I was interested in that, and on the condition that I could buy into the business and become an owner of the company and really take it and grow. So, the shareholder group that was within All Choice Rentals that started the company back in 2009, they liked that idea that Michael Dirksen and I would be heavily invested in the company, have a vested interest to take the company and grow. And today, Michael and I were the largest shareholders of All Choice Rentals. And it looked terrible, but I'm only 39 years old, so I very interested in, trying to grow, a sizable business and compete against, the big giants, the big national rental players. I think there's lots of opportunities for rental independent companies to flourish and shine. So it's been a fun 10 years, stressful 10 years, but been super exciting.
Yeah. Well, I was commenting on how impressed I am with your beard earlier. I'm still growing mine. Is the white in your beard from the stress of running one of the fastest growing rental companies in North America?
Absolutely. And also like the weight that I've put on. I'm certainly about 30 pounds heavier than I normally am. But it's part and parcel due to, we've had a lot of, ebbs and flows within the industry. Especially Alberta, we're very much like Texas, oil and gas driven, where, we've had some ebbs and flows. We've went through multiple recessions. We've had an oil and gas price collapse. We had a pandemic. We had supply chain constraints, the price of equipment going through the roof, availability. It's certainly, been a stressful time, over the past 10 years to try and navigate and grow a rental company with so much uncertainty that, it does put a lot of stress on a person. But, I also think that's the exciting part or the opportunity and how you differentiate yourself from, other rental companies, because, in order for you to be successful and grow during a period, a challenging period, you need to be nimble, you need to diversify, think outside the box. So it's really fun navigating a lot of these challenges, but also, cool to say that we have been able to grow and, expand during, whatever challenge is thrown our way.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I think you're maybe downplaying a little bit some of the success you guys have had. We really have been consistently one of the fastest growing rental companies in North America by revenue over not just 1 year, but, over a long period of time, 5-10 years you've been doing this. And you mentioned the two recessions and the oil price collapse in COVID. I mean, it hasn't been easy, but what do you attribute your success to? Because there have been a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of competitors with both local and national players you guys compete with. Over this 10-year period, what do you attribute the success of the business to?
I mean, we've kind of taken a different approach towards rentals. We very much want to be a one-stop shop provider for anything rental related. There's just a lot of companies that say they can provide a one-stop service, but for us, in addition to general construction rentals, we also have a waste management division. So we have roll-off trucks. We have, upwards of 800 bins. Scrap metal recycling. We also have the temporary fencing division. We have a very large portable toilet and septic and luxury wash car division. So thousands of toilets, wash cars. We're doing festivals and weddings and events. We also have a specialty tooling division for plant shutdowns. Anytime that there needs to be kind of a major overhaul or maintenance project within a facility, we have the tool cribs and the seat cans and all the specialty tooling to do those projects, as well as we do office accommodations, living accommodations on site. Try to be a one-stop shop. We also handle our own internal logistics. We have 53 trucks and trailers within our company, and we move equipment wherever it's needed the most based on, demand of that equipment. So, really, for us, the first three things on any major job site that we looked at was fencing, a bin, a toilet. And if you can get those three things on a project, you likely have about an 80% chance of getting, other opportunities like office trailers, power generation, lighting. Do you have any earth moving, aerial, compaction? So that was kind of our approach. And we have a peace of mind rental guarantee, that we hold ourselves accountable. So, all equipment has to be in good standing and good working condition before it is sent out. It needs to be delivered within 60 minutes of a quoted delivery time. Any repairs and maintenance needs to be replaced and dealt with within 24-hour period. And lastly, if we don't have it, we have to find it for you. So if we don't have it, particularly in our rental fleet, we've built a very strong network of other rental providers that we call upon to do re-rentals. We're a big fan of supporting independent rental companies. That's who I go to first with any kind of re-rental opportunity. So just trying to think outside the box. There's been a couple opportunities and a couple challenges where you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but you found situations where you need to come up with a creative solution. There was one opportunity, and I've told this story before, where, we quoted an office complex project where we needed to supply an office trailer, but we were a desk short. So, I'm sitting at my own desk thinking, well, I have a desk. Why not take my desk? Same thing with Michael. He's got a beer fridge in his garage, a full-size beer fridge. And, we were one refrigerator short of completing our lunchroom package. So, we just wheeled over to Michael's house, dumped all his beer out of the fridge, dollied it out of his garage, and loaded it into the trailer. You go and think of creative ways to always come through for your customer. And that's what's really set us apart, because I'm very vocal. We're not a low-cost provider. We're probably the most expensive rental company in the industry. Our rates are typically always, on average between, let's call it 15 to 25% higher than the competitor. But with that, we provide customer service. We're a service-based company. So, a lot of the times, people in our competition, they're very much, price-focused, low-cost providers. And service is kind of an afterthought, where we're kind of taking a different approach. We focus on customer service, but with that comes, a different set of responsibilities. When a customer calls, we need to be ready to, jump into action and help them, because, downtime is very important. And sometimes that gets overlooked, in the initial stages of a project. Lots of times people are just looking at the bottom line, but they don't realize, if you don't have a service provider in place that's able to, adapt quickly and, swap equipment out or add additional equipment, evenings, weekends, night shift, you'll have 50 to 100 people standing on site, costing you thousands of dollars. So that's really where we shine, in the service. And that's, we don't, our company, we're not about, I think a lot of people, especially in sales, they will say, like, where do I need to be to get the job? Like, I think that is a lazy approach to sales. It's at that point, the customer is just going to say a number that might not make sense. And for us, we would walk away. We would say, we're very interested in working with you, but, at the rates that we've provided, but with that, you're going to get the peace of mind that your site is going to be looked after, throughout the whole project.
Yeah, that's it's a lot of insights. There's like 7 to 10 nuggets right there. One thing I've been thinking about is what makes really great businesses. Is it the execution or is it the strategy? And I think both are important. One thing I'm interested with you guys is you have made that strategic choice to be the one-stop shop, and you're going to have a premium service with premium prices. And that has been a decision that you guys have made that has sort of put you on this new path. I'm just curious how you think about what you really attribute your success to, because I know you have a strong culture and team we'll talk about here in a second, but do you really feel like it was some of those strategic choices you made early on around who you're going to serve and how you're going to operate in the business? Do you think that some of those strategic choices really have been the difference between an average rental company and a top performing company like yourself?
Well, for us, back in 2009 when we first started, so we used to be, All Choice Rentals used to be a cat rental store location. And what happened was in 2009, the cat rental store in our particular small town was going up for sale. The employees of that company rallied together and ended up buying that business. And that's how All Choice Rentals started. But back in 2009, we were very much a power generation company. That's pretty much all we had. So one of the things that we quickly realized is you can't have all your eggs in one basket. You need to diversify your product offering and make sure that, you can specialize in a certain area, no problem. But when you have, 100% of your assets are focused on one particular area, it certainly makes it challenging. And back in 2009, we had a lot of people enter the market doing power generation. And, we quickly realized that, this business is changing. There's a trend between more, clean and green, options, like natural gas, wind, solar, electric options. So we quickly realized that in order for us to succeed, we need to diversify our product offering. So we took a kind of a licking when we sold off a lot of those assets. We specialized in, we said anything over 150 kilowatts and greater, we're going to sell off. And then with that money, then we bought earth moving equipment, compaction, aerial, kind of slowly started growing kind of our rental offering. And then just kind of taking a look at the industry and seeing where can we fit in? What aren't other companies providing? Is there an opportunity for us to do something differently? One of the things that we do in a little bit differently is that we handle our own internal logistics. So, we have a fleet of 53 trucks and trailers. So our company works off very much like a hub and spoke. We've got 9 locations now across Alberta, and all these locations are within a few hours of each other. So that has helped us where, rather than all standalone branches having to have, $20 million worth of equipment in each location, we can strategically place equipment, in various hubs, and move that equipment where it's needed. So from a utilization standpoint, it's helped our utilization because we don't need to have, piles and piles of equipment sitting in all these locations. Based on the project or the duration, we can move that equipment quickly. And that's kind of one of our, bargaining chips when we are dealing with price sensitive customers is lots of times, they'll say, well, you're $200 high on your monthly rate, but with the opportunity of us being able to provide our own logistics, I can say, well, okay, Mr. Customer, you plan on taking this piece of equipment for, 6 to 9 months. Why don't I offer, subsidized trucking or one-way trucking or free freight? Another thing that we do is I'm certified to teach mobile elevated work platform training, fall protection, skid steer training, telehandler training, and forklift training. So lots of times when we're in a tight deal where, they're saying we're high on our price, hey, Mr. Customer, why don't I provide, operator training for 5 of your employees at no charge? That takes 4 hours of my time, 4 to 8 hours of my time to do that. But, by offering that value added service, it gets our equipment on site and, we make money in rentals. You're making more margin on the rentals. So that's where really, just kind of thinking, creatively and how you can compete. And that's allowed us to compete against some of the national players is we can compete on any size project, whether it's a, small little residential construction project or $100 million project. We have the equipment to do it, but we just have to move it strategically as a result. And we can do it quickly. We have the staff, we have the people, and we have the equipment. So based on where that equipment is best served, we'll move it.
On the logistics piece, and several actually things you brought up, I can't help but think about Amazon, one-stop shop. I also know initially they, for their desks, they bought doors from like Home Depot because it was cheaper and they wanted to show how scrappy they were. I'm thinking about you giving your desk out to a customer. And then obviously, like if you use Amazon, all of a sudden you start seeing Amazon trucks everywhere where they have shifted to internal logistics as well. As you made that shift, was that a cost-saving measure or do you feel like that was more to deliver a better customer service? How did you think about making that choice to own the logistics part of the business in-house?
I think it was a little bit of both. You're looking at your financial statements and looking at, holy cow, I spent $1 million on third-party trucking in the course of a 12-month period. If I had those trucks myself, I could have saved that money and, things like that. Also, too, by having the trucks and the capabilities to move the equipment within a moment's notice is also kind of ties into our peace of mind rental guarantee, our product offering, our service offering. A lot of companies, a lot of the national players in Alberta, they might only have one truck within their physical branch. But they're kind of handcuffed to that truck as well as a lot of, they have to outsource a third party. And when you outsource and third party, a lot of those transportation, logistics, you're working on their schedule. They don't understand how critical or important it is to your customer, that this piece of equipment arrives, at this particular time. From that, for them, it's we'll get to it when we get to it. And they're billing from the moment they get in the truck to the moment they get back. So, by having the opportunity to have your own fleet, it allows us to get creative. Certainly there's an operating cost to having your own trucks and trailers and maintenance and, all the commercial rules and regulations that a company has to follow to ensure that you're doing it properly and safely. There's certainly a cost to that, but it allows us to be more nimble and flexible by having that capability and resources at our fingertips.
Yeah. I'm interested. Is there also an element of scale that has benefited you guys? Because if you had just one truck, right, you're sort of, if that's busy, you're not in a good spot. Sounds like as you've grown, you have some sort of economies of scale benefits as well that allows you to be a little bit more flexible. Like you're sort of in this middle ground where the small guys have great customer service, but they don't actually have the scale to support some of the complex operations. The large guys, a little bit too big. Do you sort of feel like you're in the right spot where you are big enough to sort of have some scale to be able to move equipment around pretty easily, but not so large that you really lose touch with the customer?
Yeah, I think so too. Like one of the big things about our company is establishing, a really great culture. And one of the things about culture in our business that we quickly realized that, as we get bigger, I think a lot of companies look at, coming up with a more centralized, decision-making hierarchy and having those kind of, set roles. For us, we kind of took a different approach. We have a decentralized decision-making. We empower our staff and our employees to make decisions on the fly. There's nothing more frustrating than dealing with an angry customer on the phone and them having to say, well, I need to touch base with my manager, or my manager will call you back. Let's deal with that situation right now. And, by having the freedom and flexibility and empowering your employees to make those decisions, it's also helped, our company. They understand their customer, the people they're dealing with on a daily basis. They know the importance. We're very transparent, within our organization. And, it has helped us, having the scale too. Like, one truck is good. One truck is better than zero. But, you also have to remember that trucks break down. Trucks require preventative maintenance. Trucks require annual inspections. So if you're going to have one truck, it's better to have two, because then you have a backup in case something goes sideways on you, right? So, for us, we've got different types of trucks, different configurations. By us doing, office trailers, there's 60-foot trailers. We need specialty trailers, trombone trailers, scissor neck trailers, winch tractors. They're very expensive. We also have highway tractors for moving just equipment. We've got 53-foot equipment trailers just for moving equipment up and down the road. And then we also have, garbage trucks and back trucks and everything in between. We've also adapted and modified some of our garbage trucks to have a flat deck add-on attached to them. So when they're not hauling garbage bins, they could put the flat deck attachment on and start hauling equipment. So it's just allowed us to be more flexible and nimble.
Yeah. We got a question from Desmond, going back to something you're talking about with your hub and spoke model. Question is, what technology do you leverage to manage the hub and spoke model? Are core functions centralized in order to manage the movement of fleet?
So we have point of rental. So we use point of rental software. It'll tell us where the equipment is centrally based. We also use another software analytical tool that kind of, compares us to, our industry rates, our utilization, our benchmark, where those equipment is sitting, how long it's been sitting in one particular area for. So generally, I say we don't have a centralized decision hierarchy, but I don't like the word hierarchy at all. But we do have, branch managers within our locations and district managers within our locations that generally will, be in constant contact, communication with each other. And those branch managers and district managers will make that decision on where it needs to go. And one of the things, like when we first worked on this hub and spoke system is, how do we do this efficiently and effectively and cost effectively? Does it make sense to transfer, an aerator or sod cutter from one location to another 3 hours away for $40 rental, when you've spent $200 in fuel to get it there? In certain scenarios and long-term rents or things like that, we'll take a lot of these factors and play into, does each branch need to have their own sod cutter? Is it more effective than actually transferring it from each location? So some branches you're going to have, a core asset mix, a core fleet, and then based on that, if we have any additional equipment if we have a underutilized asset sitting in a different market, different location, then we will pull those kind of non-core assets from different branches.
Yeah. I mean, it's a combination of technology, then also internal process and how you manage things. And I assume the pricing tool, you're talking about Rouse Analytics, is that?
Yeah.
It sounds like that's been a positive experience for you as well, using that platform.
Yeah, we've been using it now for maybe about a year.
Yeah,
and it's really found a lot of things where inefficiencies within our business. We found quickly that our daily and weekly rates were actually low, and our monthly rental rates were high. So just by doing kind of a quick pricing, strategy, increasing our daily and weeklies, lowering some of our monthly rates, we found several $100,000 in additional markup and margin that we were, able to make up as a result of that. It also kind of provides an industry benchmark to see, how do we stack up against some of the larger players? Again, we're not a low-cost provider, but it is still good to know, where you sit within that group. A lot of, especially in our region, the major nationals are all on Rouse, and some of the, the mid-size independents and even some smaller independents use it as well. And, it also helps, when we look at certain asset class like telehandlers, they're typically 80+% utilized, but yet rental rates are low on those. I don't understand. The supply and demand doesn't seem to kind of follow telehandlers, but it also allows us to make, smart business decisions based on that information. If you have a piece of equipment that's 100% utilized, why would you provide a discount on that rental? We also, and it holds our customers accountable too, because, many times I've had customers call and say, well, I can get it from this national rental provider for X amount, and it's well below the benchmark, within the industry. So then my initial, immediate reaction will be, well, you better go and get that piece of equipment. That is a smoking deal. And then they're like, oh, well, let me call you back. And then in 20 minutes later, they're like, okay, we'll take your telehandler. So it's, it's kind of it's a cool tool. And my business partner, Michael, he loves formulas and spreadsheets and algorithms and Excel. He loves that. So, he's constantly looking at, his computer, building formulas, spreadsheets, algorithms. And, Rouse has taken a lot of that, off his hands. It provides a lot of that feedback and information kind of on a updated daily basis, which is helpful for him, who manages kind of the financial side of our business.
And how often are you guys updating rates now that you have this tool? Are you doing it annually or doing it much more frequently than that?
Typically we do it annually, but if there's, I know Rouse provides, dynamic pricing, and it's updated every night at 2 a.m. Yeah. So, I mean, if there's something that, we notice where we're totally upside down on, we'll slowly start to, introduce and restructure some of this pricing. We're getting to the size now in the scale and, the scale of our business. I hate to say it, but we do need to, I don't want to be run like a corporation, because that's not how we've been successful in business, but we also need to make smart business decisions. We need to have the information, available to us to make those informed decisions. So, although, we're a service-based company, we still need to make, really informed, and if we have to pivot and modify our pricing structure, we'll do it. So it's been a great tool. We've used we've brought a lot of our, logistics. We've got dash cams, we've got GPS, we've got electronic logs, we've got electronic inspections. We've brought our health and safety policy online. So instead of keeping, thousands of papers, within each branch location, there's employee portals and hubs that they can access this information. It's standardized across the company. We just went from 55 employees to 120 employees. We essentially doubled in size with our most recent acquisition. So, having a lot of, structure can be, a good thing, but also being nimble and able to make a lot of those decisions and decentralize the decision-making is also very important to us as well.
Yeah. So we've talked about the strategy side and sort of how you've sort of arrived at being the one-stop shop. The other side of the coin is execution, right? And which is really just driven by your team. You now have over 100 people, and that's ultimately driven by the culture. I'm curious how you think about culture in your organization, because you mentioned you want to push decisions as far down the tree as you can, the hierarchy. I know you don't like the term, but the organization. The other thing you mentioned previously was, sometimes you got to switch the light tower out at 2 a.m. and you've got people going out to do that. And that's not something that a normal company would necessarily do. You have the buy-in from your team who are willing to do those types of things. How do you think about the culture side? You've talked about strategy. How have you built such an amazing culture with your team who feels bought in and energized about going the extra mile for your customers?
I think for us, we're very open and transparent. And I think our employees and staff appreciate that. We're not afraid to open our financial statements to any employee that wants to see them. And typically what we do once a quarter, we send out our financial statements to our employees within the company. One of the things that we offer our organization is quarterly profit sharing. And if the employees within your organization have an understanding about how their decisions and how, some of the choices that they've made affects the business, they understand that, they might do something a little bit differently. So just by having transparency, showing our books and showing that to our employees, we have nothing to hide. We don't need to be secretive. We're not, I think a lot of times people think like, oh, these guys are making millions upon millions of dollars. Well, lots of times that's not the case. There's lots of times where we've lost money for the month, and, here's why. So, being open and transparent, we do a few things, culturally, like, for me, when I look back, like to my childhood and I love my dad and he was a very, very much oil and gas guy, Saskatchewan farm boy, brought up differently, didn't finish high school, was kind of taught to, go out, work as much as you can, provide for your family. Like that was, always, looked at my dad as a hardworking man and, never faulted it for him. But, I played hockey for, 15 years and my dad only maybe saw me play four or five games ever, and I've got two young children now, 7 and 4, two young boys. And, I think about that and I never want to miss a moment in their life. Times have changed, priorities are changing, a little bit as well. So, and for us within our company, I make it very clear to our staff. And, if you have your child's dance recital or hockey practice, I would be so upset to hear that you missed that practice because you had to go and make a delivery. There's times where we have to make sacrifices within the business, but I would rather prefer that you would mention it to somebody where, hey, I need to duck out at 3 p.m. because I got to go to my daughter's recital. One of our staff will jump in a truck. Any one of us will hop in that truck to make sure that they make that recital. So it's kind of feeling, knowing that, although we are a service-based company, we provide a healthy work-life balance. Sometimes you might have to get up in the middle of the night, but, it's to the, we do what we can to help our customers, so we also offer, company profit sharing, free equipment rentals, as long as there's no reservation on that piece of equipment, go ahead and take it home on the weekend and do your landscaping projects at your farm. That's a really cool perk. We provide Christmas bonuses, Christmas bonus, and then we buy Christmas presents with for every single child within the company. So, just to show how much we appreciate them, we celebrate birthdays. It was one of our district manager's birthdays yesterday, actually. So, we put balloons everywhere up within his office. We buy cake and donuts. We have parties. We bring in weekly catering. We have brisket cook-offs. We celebrate employee milestones. We have retention bonuses. We provide living wages. We don't have any single person within our company that's making minimum wage. The cost of inflation and affordability has become a really big thing. And that, so just treating an employee fairly and also learning what their wants and needs are. We've got quite a dynamic mix of individuals. We have some, younger staff that want to work unlimited overtime. And we have some staff that are in their, tail end of their careers that want to be home every day at 5. So just kind of working around their schedules, what is their wants? What are their needs? Everybody's financial situation is different. But just working and asking the questions, how can we as an employer provide, what you need, to make things easier for you. Also too, we've had really good success. It's been a challenge to, there's in the trades, the skilled trades, it's tough to find, qualified mechanics and qualified, professional drivers. For us, one of the things is investing in your employees. If there's any staff that want to take a course or go back to school, we'll help them with that. We put a lot of our employees through various apprenticeship programs. We have something it's called the MELT program if they want to become a professional driver, and they don't have, the $10,000 that it costs to get that training. We'll pay for it for them, and we'll provide. It's easier to keep a happy employee than to find and replace and, go through the rigmarole of, having to rehire someone. So, the happier you can keep your current employees, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as you talk about all this stuff, the culture didn't happen by accident. You talked about celebrating birthdays and making sure people can go to the dance recitals and paying people fair wages and the quarterly profit sharing and the transparency and the Christmas. I mean, there's a very thoughtful exercise you guys have gone through to build that culture intentionally. It's not an accident, which your business better than me. It's almost like you almost spend as much time thinking about the culture as you do about the strategy, right? I can tell it's a very thoughtful thing you've gone through. I think the other thing I think about is you have buy-in from your team. One of our 5 company values at Quipli is act like an owner, and all of our employees have ownership in the business as well. We're much smaller than you guys, but I think it's important when you can get the buy-in from the team. And I think, you've done that with the transparency, but the whole company directly participates in the profit of the business. And I think I'm interested to hear, is that driven some of the success and buy-in when people really feel like they are owners in the company?
Yeah. And I don't know how we can quantify it per se, but, some of the things that we've noticed just by introducing quarterly profit sharing is, people's moods, everybody's smiling, they're happy, they're laughing. Actually one thing we noticed was we've had less breakdowns as a result of it. People, they're more excited, they're happy to go to work. And, we've noticed, our repairs and maintenance bills drastically going down as a result of, introducing these measures. So it's, it has had a very positive effect on our business. People want to make great decisions. They understand the impacts of their decisions. And as a result, I think everybody feels empowered and valued as a result of it. One of the things we didn't touch on is, All Choice Rentals, we have kind of a mandate to support the community in which we live in. So, within all our organization and in all our branch locations, to date, we've donated over $650,000 back into the communities in which we serve. anytime you can get the community together, whether it's a concert or, a not-for-profit event, it has such a positive effect on people's mental health. And the more you can bring the community together and get people smiling and laughing and dancing, just it's so amazing, to have that, within, that community feel. And it's funny, it's kind of like, for us, it's kind of like that, in Wayne's World when he's trying to book that concert, and it's like, if you book it, they'll come.
Right.
It's, for us, it's, if you support the community in which you serve, they will support you in return. It's funny because, we'll have some of the national rental providers' trucks drive through our town or cities, and not even in 5 minutes will I have 10 phone calls from people being like, hey, I noticed this company's in town. Like, how do you want us to react? And I'm like, well, stop following them because, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, they're very protectionist. They're loyal. They want to make sure, they support small business. They support local business. And they really want to make sure that, that you're successful because you support the community. And it's worked really well for us. It's really helped us, navigate a lot of these, ebbs and flows with various recessions and COVID and supply chain. People get very protective, and it's been great, and it's amazing that, there's so many different rental providers out there, but, when you invest in your community and you give back and, just what that can mean to your business as well.
Yeah. And I think, just hearing you talk, what you have done with your organization is elevate the mission upward. You've elevated it to, we're all owners of this business, or at least profit shares of this business. How do we build an amazing business? And even further above that, how do we serve our community? And that's ultimately, I think, like the pyramid of wants and needs. Like the top level is, how do you be of service? So something I've been thinking about, I wrote this down too, as you say, supporting community where we grow. I sort of highlighted that, something for us to think about too, because I had my birthday last week. I think you're 39, I'm 33. Every year I sort of have like a focus for the year. Last year I was like, I want to be more open-minded, and then whatever. Okay, did that. This year, what I've been thinking about is, how do I become more of service to people? And so every day I've been writing down, what's one thing of service I've done for someone else? And it's like, okay, it's been 8 days since I've turned 33, and like, it's a struggle. I'm like, I'm not actually giving back as much as I thought. When you start actually making a list of the things you're doing, my goal for the year is to, by forcing that list, I start thinking more of how can I be more of service to our community and the places we live and work. But it's just a reminder for me, as you talk about being of service, as you think about your business, you've been fast growing, et cetera, profitable. Those are all the bottom line metrics. But even above that, you're really leading with, how do we serve our communities? I think that's just inspiring for me, and hopefully the people listening as well. I think that's just a good reminder. You can be successful and serve community, and sometimes those things are related.
Yeah, no, I really agree. And I think, just been watching yourself and what you've been able to achieve in a very short period of time is also inspiring. Like, you're putting on the miles. You're going to, Texas, you're going to various other locations to, provide value to other customers and learn more about the businesses. One of the really good things, I'm heavily involved in various associations. I was a member of the Canadian Rental Association. We're members of the American Rental Association. I'm a huge advocate for supporting independent rental companies, and there's a kind of a little bit of a resurgence coming. There is a huge consolidation happening within the industry, but that kind of comes with comes ebbs and flows. We're seeing a few smaller independent rental companies starting off, so contacting them, providing them some guidance. I don't want to say mentorship, but providing them some honest feedback. Helping them with equipment. Equipment is expensive. Mm-hmm. If we have extra equipment sitting in one of our locations, let's do a re-rental option. We're big fans of that, and I think a lot of these associations and where you can, peer executive groups are becoming more important and valuable these days. Whenever you can get, 10 to 12 industry partners together in non-competing businesses to share best practices is very important. We've made lots of mistakes, but, we can reach out to other companies and see, can we do something differently? And I think it's important for us, and especially, smaller to mid-size independent rental companies, that that we work together with other independent rental companies, because, we don't have billions of dollars. So we need to be able to, share resources and share best practices, because, it's certainly a challenge competing with some of these major players.
Yeah, with deep pockets. And I think one thing I've been encouraged with is how, I guess, community focused the industry is. American Rental Association has been awesome. Peer Executive Group, we had Dan Crowley on a month ago. There's just a couple examples, but even these Facebook groups are people, how do we help each other? How do we grow together? And I think that's been cool to see. You talked about consolidation earlier, and you guys had a big acquisition last month with Select Equipment Rentals. I think you said you've grown from 5 to 9 locations with the acquisition, 55 to 120 employees, give or take. What led to that, deciding to make that purchase, and how has that process been? That's big news. It's a big acquisition.
Like for us, when the opportunity came about, we were super excited about that opportunity. And Select is very similar to All Choice Rentals in that, of their 5 locations, 4 of their locations were in rural Alberta. And they had 1 location in an urban market, so that's Edmonton. So just kind of looking, we work off a hub and spoke system, right? So, just kind of looking strategically where their locations were on the map jived very well with our hub and spoke model. What's really cool to say now is with this acquisition, All Choice Rentals can service 85% of Alberta within 2 hours of a phone call. There is no other rental company in Alberta that can say that. With our 9 locations spread out geographically and strategically, we can now service, a landmass the size of Texas, or very similar to the size of Texas, within 2 hours of a phone call. So that was amazing. Also, just, we've looked at other businesses before, and, it has to be a good fit culturally. We talked a lot about culture today, but, if it's, we're very much interested in, open, honest, transparent, how are the employees treated? We're not interested in dictatorships or, this is how we do it. And everybody is so, scared to make a decision. Like, I think when we looked at Select, they're very much, quite similar to us. So, also too, like looking at our business, understanding that times are changing, some of the buzzwords and some of the things that we need to be mindful of, climate change, an adaptation to, kind of cleaner, greener, energy sources. When we looked at our business, All Choice Rentals, we were very much about, I would say 70% oil and gas. And when we looked at Select, they did 0 in oil and gas, but they specialized in kind of more general construction, commercial, and forestry markets. So by bringing the 2 companies together, our oil and gas exposure has went from about 70% to below 50. So, we're very well diversified, from a revenue standpoint. We don't have all our eggs, in one basket, specialized in just oil and gas now. We have a well versatile and diversified, revenue mix. So, for us, that was important. It was a great opportunity, for us, like, with all the other industry consolidation going on, you almost have to look at that and say, like, in order for us to be successful or have a chance to compete against some of these larger players, is we also have to grow and expand, so, there's very few mid-sized independent rental companies left in Canada. Most of them have been swallowed up by the large national players. But, I think for us at the size that we're at and the scale that we're at, I think a lot of the bigger national players, they can try and, try their best to crush us. They can't and they won't. But I think they have to respect us now.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to look back and say, these guys are now worthy adversaries, and we have to show them some respect. It hasn't always been like that. We've had a very kind of love-hate relationship with some of the national players, and I'm not afraid to tell this story, but we've had times where I went out for dinners and lunches with some very high up executive members and within some large national rental companies that say, the only reason All Choice Rentals isn't business is because we allow you to, and it's always funny when somebody says that, because, that just tells me like the insecurity and we must be doing something right, because, we're certainly scaring or, caught their attention. So, I think now for us, we're, we have a big platform. We can move equipment very quickly across a huge landmass. We can service those customers within 2 hours of a phone call. And culturally, we've got, now 120 really amazing employees that, in the last few weeks, I've went to all of Select's locations and sat down and, learned about their wants, their needs, about them, specifically, do they have children? That, what do they do? And what do they do for fun? And, just talk more about, family and then business, and just try to get to know the new team members and provide them some reassurances that, like, this is All Choice Rentals. This is who we are. This is what we care about. And to us, you're not a number. You're important, you're valued, and we will do whatever it takes to make sure that, you're happy within the organization.
Yeah. And that comment they made about you're only in business because they're letting you, that's probably the biggest compliment you could receive, that you were building the right business. That's how I would take it. It sounds like you did as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. And I poke fun. We've got a very strong social media presence, and, we use that as a strategic marketing tool to diversify and differentiate our service. And I like to poke fun. I realize, I can't poke fun all the time, and it can be petty sometimes, if I do that too much. But it's also a great tool to differentiate your service. I say very often on LinkedIn or Facebook, we're not a low cost provider. Are you a company that cares about downtime? Well, if you are, like, allow All Choice Rentals the opportunity to take that project on for you. And being able to service 99% of any project. Just if I look at it from a project management standpoint, how convenient is it to deal with one rental company that can handle 99% of my equipment needs?
Mm-hmm.
I know, I drive to some of these, urban, job sites, and I see 15 different rental providers on a job site.
Mm.
If I'm a project manager and one piece of equipment breaks down, you're like, whose is it? Who do I call? It's a revolving door of people. You don't know what you're dealing with. Like, their time is extremely valuable and important. And if they can focus on actually building the projects faster and not have to deal with, any kind of the equipment related hassles and things that come with day-to-day wear and tear. Like, if I'm a project manager, I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Because that certainly saves me hours a day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know we're just about out of time. My last question, I'm glad you mentioned, was around your social media and your LinkedIn. I've been a huge fan of following you. And if anyone doesn't have Blake added on LinkedIn, he's a great follow. It's very engaging content. Have you felt that has helped grow your business? Is that maybe not directly tied, because sometimes it's hard to attribute things to social media or LinkedIn, but do you feel like that's been a differentiator for your brand?
Yeah. And, I strongly believe that it has grown our business. I get upwards of 25, personalized messages a day, from different people, asking for equipment, or, hey, I saw your post on this and it really resonated with me. I think lots of times if you're looking at, social media, you have to be mindful of what you're posting. Everybody, for the most part, knows, if you're a rental company, they know what equipment you have, so you can't just be like, here's my widget, call us XYZ. I think what people really, care about is how you're different, and, how you do things differently. How are you able to help a customer in a challenging time, and it's interesting and it's fun because like all our drivers and they're constantly sending me photos. They're very proud of, the equipment and the places that they get to deliver that equipment. So they're constantly sending me pictures, throughout, the middle of the night. Hey, we want, this company or this hotel had a pipe burst and we were there within 10 minutes, with carpet fans and, showing how you're different, and how you went above and beyond has really done a lot for our business. I always laugh. Sometimes I see some posts. It's like, oh, we helped a customer at 4 p.m. on Friday. It's like, well, you helped your customer during regular business hours. Like that's not overly, exciting. But, if that same post said, we had a customer breakdown at 2 a.m. and we swapped it out within 10 minutes. Well, yeah, that's a great post, and that you should be proud of that. So it's certainly, we've sent equipment as far, west as Vancouver, as far east as, Ontario. As a result, we've sent, some of the things that we did, some unique things. We sent stuff to New Mexico, if you can believe it. I think it's just, you can come up with engaging content that shows how you're different. You can really have a lot of success as long as it's, unique and resonates, and not just, here's my widget. I think you can show that, there's a lot of value in that.
Exactly. And the whole 4 p.m. on Friday, it's like, great, thank you for showing up to do your job in normal hours today. It's like, that's almost like a negative flex. I wouldn't advertise that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Blake, we're just out of time. I appreciate you coming on. It's been an awesome episode. We're lucky to have you on the podcast, and it's been cool following you on LinkedIn. Again, anyone who's listening to this, please add Blake because he's a funny follow and engaging content. I'm definitely a fan, and it's been awesome to see your success. And obviously, since we've talked, right, the big acquisition last month. So rooting for you, Blake, and thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you guys.